Hey everyone, Attorney Davis Younts here. This year for the 4th of July, we wanted to do a short 5 video series. We're just going to talk about different elements of the way we think about this holiday, both as Americans and Christians, and how that impacts the way we celebrate. So stay tuned to our YouTube channel and to our social media this week as we begin to think about how we celebrate this holiday well, and check out our video series. Thanks. Take care. Everyone, Attorney Davis Younts here. Listen, this is day 3 of our 5-day Independence Day series. And today I want to talk about the cost that the founding fathers had, what they sacrificed, what they gave up as a result of signing the Declaration of Independence. So kind of what we talked about yesterday a little bit, they were seen as rebels. They really were risking their lives, right? They were pledging their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. That was not an idle promise. When they signed the Declaration, they were saying to the King of England, arguably the most powerful ruler of the most powerful country in the world, they were saying, we are willing to challenge you. We are willing to defy you, that the law is king, Christ is king, not you, and we're willing to risk our lives to do that. So we often think of the founding fathers, we think of, men in powdered wigs, we think of wealthy plantation owners like Thomas Jefferson, and we think a lot of different things about it. But just remember, each of these men had families, had people that they cared about, and they were giving up. They were willing to risk their comfort and their safety for liberty. So before we get into the founders, I'll just tell a quick story about my family. So I go by Davis. That's my middle name. That's a family name. There was a Captain William Davis who fought in the Revolutionary War. He was a bookseller in Boston. He actually lost his fortune. Not that he had that much of a fortune, but he lost everything he had and actually kind of had to be an explorer and would be one of the first people to settle in Ohio after the war. But he essentially lost any wealth he had amassed because it was all destroyed by the British in Boston. That story, that family story that we have, is similar to what many of the founders faced. And many of the founders, we don't hear about them. They didn't go on to become president or necessarily important people in the new colonies because of what happened during the war. So let me just give you kind of a quick summary of what we know that happened to some of the founders. So if we think about the founders, 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. 5 signers were captured by the British as traitors and tortured before they died during the war. Think about that. 5 captured as traitors, tortured, and died because they signed the Declaration of Independence. 12 had their homes ransacked and burned. 2 lost their sons in the Revolutionary Army. Another 2 had sons captured. 9 of the 56 fought and died from wounds or hardships during the Revolutionary War. So what kind of men were they? What made them willing to make this sacrifice? We've talked about this before. They were primarily Christians, and if not, if they were deists and didn't necessarily have what we would consider a saving faith or a orthodox belief in God and a relationship with Christ, they were still influenced by that. But we're talking about men. 24 were lawyers, 11 were merchants, 9 were farmers, some were men of means. All of them were well educated, but there is no doubt that they all counted the cost. They all understood what they were doing. So they were not simply just rebels, ruffians, and things like that. These were well-educated men who understood what they were doing, understood why they were doing it, and believed so strongly, not just from a place of faith, but in the men around them and the sacrifices they were willing to make, that they were willing to give up everything. So when they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, they meant it. And for many of them, they paid the ultimate sacrifice for signing the Declaration of Independence. So as you go out and celebrate the 4th of July, again, I want to encourage you to enjoy what it means to celebrate the 4th of July. Enjoy what it means to celebrate a holiday where the decision makers, the leaders of what would become a nation, were willing to sacrifice and put their own lives on the line for what they believed in and what God had called them to do. So that should be something to celebrate. We should celebrate their honor. We should talk about them. We should read their names to our families and just pray and thank God for the sacrifices they were willing to make. And we should ask ourselves, we should look internally and say, what are we willing to sacrifice for our nation? What are we willing to sacrifice for what we believed in? That is a critical thing to do. Again, balance joy with understanding why we celebrate this holiday and making sure we have reverence for those who came before us, who honored God with their sacrifice. Hey, thanks for listening. Take care.